Blessed Samhain, everyone. This is the holy day of November 1st. It's close to the Day of the Dead. It's this magical time of year where the veil is the thinnest and we have the most access to the etheric realms, to feeling our well ancestors on the other side, to connecting with our roots. I have here my golden skull to represent this a little bit. And for myself, when Samhain arrives, it is an opportunity to be more comfortable with the concept of death. I know death is not a happy topic. It's not something that we love talking about, and yet it is here. It's present. It's part of life. Everything that is birthed dies, whether it is a person, an animal, a tree, even an object. My trusty deck of cards here was created and it is going through its own life cycle. And eventually it will come to an end where it is just no longer able to function as it was designed. And for myself, Samhain is a time to not only recognize that truth, but to actively celebrate it. We celebrate the truth of death. We see it as the other side of the coin that is also life. And we start to become comfortable with the fact that death can be our friend. Now, I say this without negating the intensity of grief and the pain of loss. I know these things well, and I know that you do too. Fucking hurts when people that we love die, or when our animal friends die, or when the things that we truly care about don't work out, where we lose a business or a job that we love, or our house, or dreams die because we realize that we just aren't a good match for them anymore, or when relationships die because the values are just off. All of these examples of death, they hurt, and I totally get that. I totally understand that. And yet, oftentimes, those painful moments are the ones that truly define us as people. Those death moments, those losses, those wounds of the heart are the ones that remind us to be more present to now. Those moments of grief put us in this moment of now. You can't escape it. You are just feeling your feelings. They remind us of how precious and short this life is. These moments of death are the edges of the container of our life, right? And if we didn't have the edge of death, we would never really appreciate the life that we've been gifted. I mean, it is a privilege as a soul to have been gifted this animal body that we get to inhabit and enjoy. It is a privilege that we get to be here and be aware and conscious. We get to eat food and make love and have relationships and feel our body. We get to sweat. We get to do all of these wonderful things. And death is the edge that can keep us aware of how fleeting those moments are. And we can choose. We can choose in life. Do we let death be a pressure? Do we let it be a source of constriction that we are afraid and resistant of? That's one way to be. Or do we invite it in on days like this, in appropriate times? Do we give it a good place? Do we honor it? Do we celebrate it? Do we say thank you to all of our broken hearts because they made us more resilient, because they taught us where our boundaries live, because they helped us to see what the right romantic relationship would be for us? Do we say thank you to death for showing us how important those people were to us so that we can be grateful for their influence on us, so that we can pray to them as our ancestors and as our friends and stay in connection and stay in relationship? Or do we stay so afraid of death that we push away all of that goodness? We just walk along saying, death, that's it. I'm just going to put my blinders on now. I'm just going to cut out that part of my life and lose all of that richness and all of that connection and intimacy. This Samhain, it feels like a deeply reflective time and a time to make space for the big feelings that death inevitably brings. And the more comfortable we get with the deaths that we cannot avoid in our life, the more easeful and more comfortable we can be moving with the chaos that is also inevitable in the future. We become more comfortable with needing to feel the feelings, the decisions that will need to be made. We learn how to trust ourselves. And along the way, we also begin to value those precious and delicious moments and connections that we get to have, that we know now deep down are temporary. You know, I often say this to clients that we've all kind of been duped by the Hollywood story of forever, right? Like we all want the honeymoon, or rather the fairy tale relationship. We all want the marriage that's going to last our whole lives. We all want that idea of forever. And it's just not true. Nothing lasts forever. Even if you are one of the lucky ones who meets the love of your life and you have a beautiful 60-year relationship, eventually one of you will die first and it will be over. Or you die and it will be over for you, right? Like everything ends. And instead of pathologizing endings, how much better might it feel if we allow endings to have a good place and we give them time and space, like today on Samhain, and we celebrate them, because with every good ending comes a good beginning. And that is where real magic happens, when we can allow the cycles of life to just be the cycles of life, when we can begin to look at these major heartbreaks as initiations rather than things that happen to us that should be avoided, when we start to lean in and feel and be with all the things that we don't prefer, we can start to be less triggered by them. We can stop focusing on the fact that we don't prefer them and simply just let them be and put more of our focus on the places that feel more alive, that actually give us something rather than keeping us in a victimized state. Samhain is so rich and so deep and so wide, and it's one of my favorites. So I hope that you spend some time today allowing yourself to be with this energy, to be with the turning of the wheel. I hope that you gift yourself that. If you feel called, it might feel lovely to create a little altar for your ancestors or your friends or your furry companions who have passed across the veil, to celebrate their lives, to celebrate and say thank you for all the ways that they have influenced you. You might want to leave some flowers at that altar, or take some flowers or fruit and make a little altar outside to say thank you to all of the trees and animals and plants that have influenced you and that live and die cycle after cycle. Yeah, I invite you to consider making death a friend. It's so much more comfortable in life when we can give a good place to death instead of running around feeling afraid of losing things. If we begin to just accept that losing things is part of this privilege of being a soul in an animal body, the losses become more tolerable, even if we feel all the feelings. That feels like the message for today. Thank you so much. If you've listened to this whole message, I appreciate you with all of my heart. Thank you, thank you. And I hope that you have a beautiful, holy day.